Hello, all of you wonderful people out there in podcast land. Welcome to another episode of Black and White Reviews. My name is Will. I am sick, and I am heavily medicated.
My name is Lee. I'm choking, and I'm tired.
And I'm Chuck, and I'm perfectly okay.
Yeah. Good for you.
I'm Chuck, and I'm right as rain.
I ate a
I'm
cookie
fantastic.
from the Oracle. I ate a cookie from the Oracle, and when I was finished,
You were right as rain.
I was right as rain.
Yeah.
Is rain right?
I don't know. I don't understand.
I don't understand that at all.
I think it's
I'm
just
right
it's
as
just some
rain.
kind of like consonants, like a alliteration thing that really goes nowhere. It's like even Steven. It's like, what does Steven have to do with it? You know, there's lots of things that people say that it's just because they rhyme or alliterate.
Huh.
I'm tired.
Okay.
Anyway,
You're
what are we
tired.
doing today, guys?
Well, you were telling me a
They
story
would-
before we hit record, so you have a new pet.
Yes. What?
So
what
hey,
else are we
audience out there
discussing
right now, if you're
tonight?
wondering why there was a cut here, it's because we have a Patreon exclusive, and it's going to be about Lee and his new pet. So if you're interested,
Sweet.
go subscribe to our Patreon right now to hear the odd story that he has about a new pet. There you go. Patreon,
Love it. Love it.
exclusive. There you go, Chuck. All right.
Love it.
What are we doing today? We are talking about season 4, episode what? 4? 3?
Four.
5? 4?
Four.
Dear Billy.
You know, I like that they don't call it season 4. They
just
call
call it 4?
it like they just call it 4. I kind of like that they don't break it up in seasons. Like we do
Yeah.
it because we're just used to that format. But the
Mhm.
reality is, it's Stranger Things 4, episode 2. Like I
Yeah.
actually really like that because they make it seem like it's a separate movie, you know, just broken up. So I appreciate that. And I heard Sean Levy is back for the 5th season,
Oh.
which is cool.
He's
Good.
been doing most of season 4.
No, he was off season 4, I thought.
No, he did the last like 4 episodes.
Just because
Oh.
you well, a lot of
thought I
times
read something.
what these shows do is they'll keep like the same name on as like an executive producer, even though they're like away and do absolutely nothing. Like it's
They're
one of those throwaway titles.
Is he in there as a director?
They're all directed by.
Interesting.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well then, I think it was maybe it was season 3. Then he wasn't on. I thought there was a
so the
season. that he didn't
first, so
do.
episode 1, he was not.
The Phantom Menace.
Mm.
He is the Phantom Menace.
Mm.
Oh.
Oh.
That would be kind of crazy, huh?
So go ahead.
Sorry. I just want to share something else that I think is really really
So
cool.
Sean Levy did episodes 3 and 4.
Okay.
So you want to share
Revenge of
something
the
else?
Sith.
Go for it.
Well, just something I thought was actually really interesting. So, do you guys know about Splinter of the Mind's Eye, the book?
Nope.
Nope.
All right, so Star Wars Splinter of the Mind's Eye, just a little bit of history of George Lucas and the creation of Star Wars. When he first, was writing the story, he worked with Alan Dean Foster to do a novelization of the original movie, back then titled Star Wars, not A New Hope, it was just Star Wars. And they didn't know if it was going to be a big success, so they worked with what they had. And he said, hey, start writing a sequel, but keep in mind we might not have a big budget because this first movie might flop. It might not be so good. So Alan Dean Foster, after doing the novelization of the original Star Wars, wrote Splinter of the Mind's Eye. So this is the original sequel to Star Wars. But since when Star Wars was first released was a massive hit, George Lucas says, I'm so glad you wrote this. However, now we have a big budget. We're going to do Empire Strikes Back. And he gets Kasdan and all those people and whatever.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing. So this story here, Darth Vader is not... Okay, Luke and Leia are not brother and sister, and Darth Vader is not their father. I'm not sure if that means that they specifically say it, and this wouldn't fall into what would have been canon back then. But
So if you
it's
said
still
it, if you said it and I missed it, I apologize. But was this book written before Empire?
yes,
Okay.
Yes.
Now, okay. All right.
so like I said, this book was written after Alan Dean Foster did the novelization of A New Hope.
Okay.
So this was written, while they were still getting ready to put out the first movie.
Okay.
So this was like the fallback plan. So I got this for like $4. You know, now, I wanted like the old, you know, the old book, not like some new print edition. But I don't know. I've heard some pretty cool things about it, and it's definitely. I think it all takes place on kind of like a Dagobah type place. Or I mean, that's like the main thing. But it seems pretty cool, based off of everything I read. So I just want to share that because I think it's, you know, of the books I have, the original Thrawn trilogy was something I was excited about. Shadows of the Empire. I think I loaned that one to you too, which I always thought was great because the book was so good. I mean, the game was so good. But this is the other book that I just forgot that I wanted to read. And now that I kind of understand the history of it, it just makes it that much cooler. I'm like, ooh, this is like what might have been the sequel if Star Wars wasn't such a success. So anyway,
Well, all right.
just want to share that.
That's cool.
You know, it's somewhat Stranger Things related because they're Star Wars fans and nostalgia. So anyway.
So Chuck, non-spoiler, and I'm gonna change things up a little bit. We are not discussing the cameo in the non-spoiler section, so don't even bring it up. We're saving that.
Well, yeah. It's a spoiler.
That's the only part of the non-spoiler section that I want to save.
Okay.
Thoughts on Dear Billy?
So I liked it. I really, really liked it.
But we hyped it up too much.
It was hyped up too much.
I knew it.
Really?
I don't think you guys hyped it up too much. I think the last 10 minutes of the last episode hyped it up too much.
Yeah. So this one was kind of like lackluster. It didn't really.
Well,
When you say the last 10 minutes, so were you expecting a continuation of 11's story in this episode?
No, I knew she was going on, but I was expecting more intensity with Max's story.
Right. Not just
Okay.
the last 5 minutes of this episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I wish that, like, all the stuff that she goes through to get to the... I wish that the time frame for what she goes through was flipped in reverse, so that to what she went through at the end of the episode. So what it takes to get there might take 10, 15 minutes, and then everything that happens to her is like this long process that she goes through, and it becomes, ooh, two of me. Hello. And it becomes just a bigger deal. Because, I mean, what happens to her was one of the two predictions that I gave last week, and it was pretty. That part was like, okay, I expected that. Okay. How it happened, I didn't expect. I thought it was a pretty cool way of how it happened. But I mean, overall, fantastic episode. I mean, they haven't done anything quote unquote wrong in this TV show yet. I think it's fantastic. I just think that they hyped up the last episode way too much right before they did this episode.
Okay.
And with not just you guys, but all over the place, episode 4 is one of the most talked about episodes out there.
Yeah.
Except for the cameo. I think that's probably the reason why it was so talked about.
Okay.
I mean, for me, it was very Silence of the Lambs. Mixed with Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we've had that Nightmare on Elm Street feel this entire season. This brought in a little bit. When did Silence of the Lambs come out? That was 90s, wasn't it?
I think it was 90.
I think it was 90s.
Yeah.
So if this was a nod to Silence of the Lambs, I mean, it was a little early for it.
I mean, it's not the first time somebody talked to somebody behind bars, but yeah, I guess
Wasn't
this seemed a lot more. To me, it seemed more like Shutter Island.
Wasn't Silence of the Lambs like a novel way before that though? When was it written?
Absolutely.
Like the character of Hannibal Lecter had already been established. I'm pretty sure that character was written back in whenever, but
well, remember Hannibal Lecter was based off of somebody, like loosely based off of a real person, right?
Yes, but I'm talking about like the portrayal of Anthony Hopkins. That character was written way before 90.
Yeah.
Yes, no, maybe.
Yes, I'm guessing that too.
So it does fit.
Book was written in 1988.
Okay, never
This
mind.
is 86.
Okay.
So,
okay.
oh
never
no,
mind
oh no,
then.
no, Sorry. Silence of the Lambs is a no. Okay, hold on. Oh, hold on. The first novel was Red Dragon. That was 81.
Okay.
Then Silence of the Lambs was 1988.
Okay.
So, yeah, Red Dragon was 81.
Yes, but this whole idea of what happens in this episode is very much Silence of the Lambs. So I
Yeah, I
think
can
that
see
was
it.
like
I can see it.
like Will's point last week, where they were kind of hit, not last week, but the first one where they kind of touched on Inception with the whole top.
Yeah.
If they're trying to bring in this thriller aspect of this Silence of the Lambs character, and just the whole notion of having this conversation, said villain is behind the bars, and the reporter
Yeah.
or the investigator is freed talking to them.
Mhm.
It was very, very on the nose with that. I mean, outside of the fact that this whole season so far has been strictly Nightmare on Elm Street.
Very.
And we'll get into that way more, I'm guessing, as the season goes on.
Sure.
This character, though, it's Vecna, right? Is it Vecna or Vegna?
Vecna.
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 So you can rip pieces of him off, and it will
And then
grow
it just grows back.
back.
It just goes back. Yeah.
Just grows back. That's
Sure.
interesting.
Sure.
I wish we were brought into this realm that she goes into way more.
Oh, well.
Way more in this
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Because it was super cool. But to just be brought into that more than we were,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the only I don't like about this episode is what it takes for her to get up to this point is longer than her. We've already had a whole episode leading up to this. We don't need another whole half an episode for it to continue before something happens to her. And I think that's, like Fred sees the clock, and then in the same episode, something happens. In this one, we all know at the end of episode 3, she sees the clock, and then it takes a whole episode for something to happen to her. And then I think that they just drew it out a little too much, personally.
Yeah.
I can kind of agree with that. That Max definitely has some plot armor on her for that. Okay.
Other than that, fantastic. The journey that Nancy and Robin go through, let me tell you, I watched this episode twice, and Robin's monologue inside this psych ward with the warden or whatever he is,
It's fantastic.
Dr. Hatch. Yeah.
it's fantastic.
It's
It was
amazing.
written well. She portrayed it perfect. She acted it out amazingly. It was very much well rounded. It's up there, and probably some of my favorite monologues out there right now, because she just nailed it through and through.
Mhm.
lie. Just nailed an amazing lie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
She sold
it
the
was-
story
it was-
pretty good.
She sold it. And at first you're thinking, here we go. And you see Nancy's face and you're like,
Yeah.
it's done.
But it's,
and then
it's the second time that she blows Nancy away. And she's like, that's a really good point. Like, you did, like, Nancy is starting to buy into her finally.
right.
little
But the
bit.
thing is, too, is half of what she said is true. I mean, she
Yeah.
was being honest, but she
Yeah.
just wove this other story into what was about how she was feeling, and it fit.
It's kind of a pretty cool callback to the conversation that Nancy had with her mother when they were talking about like the workplace and the world is not going to be nice and blah blah blah. Like it was kind of a callback to that. I think that's what really hit Nancy like really pretty hard. So absolutely.
Yeah.
But overall, aside from that one, that one little thing, outside of that, I love this episode. I mean, we can go into depth with so much. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of meat in this episode. There's a
Yes.
lot of meat in this
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
But outside of that, just wanted to see more of her in the I don't want to call it the Upside Down.
Yeah.
It's not.
Okay.
It is, but it's not. Well, everybody else who's gone to the Upside Down, like,
had to go through some type of portal.
they go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just want to hear "Welcome to my world" and then some like
Welcome to my world.
Yeah.
"Welcome to prime time."
Okay. Those are your thoughts, Lee?
So there's a part of me that does agree with what Chuck is saying, but a lot of it. So when somebody said, "Oh, what do you think about Dear Billy?" Like the first time I watched it, I was kind of like, "Yeah, it was good," because it was a good episode. It wasn't like, "Oh man, we just broke, television standards with this one episode." So it wasn't one that like in the past stuck out to me. But in rewatching this episode again, one thing I really appreciated about it is there's more action in this episode in all of the people's storylines. Because generally, when we're watching the other episodes, you've got like, Will and Nancy are like investigating, or not Will, Jonathan and Nancy are like investigating something, and then somebody else is doing this, and then somebody's got like somebody punched somebody, or somebody ran from something. This one, I mean, look at what happens. You've got the two girls we were just talking about, who, they ran in, they did what they were doing there. You've got like what's going on in Russia, which was like explosions and punches, and you're like, wait, what? Okay,
Yeah.
that's happening. Then you've got the whole thing going on with Max, which is pretty intense, and it's like, in every single area, there was action going on. Not to mention the shootout scene in the house, what that was like, what?
Yeah.
And honestly, what I love about it is I know we're kind of still in spoiler free, but they had the guards that were there. They were, typical, like, we're here from the government. We're just watching TV while you do your thing. But that one dude that didn't get shot right away stepped up, and I was like, this guy's really good. Like, I shoot, you run. Like, he had this whole thing planned. He didn't just get shot like everybody else you always see in every other show, who's just like, the guy set there to play babysitter. So anyway, I like that every single area had some craziness happen.
Yes.
Not just like, while this craziness happened, something small happened here. Like, there was always something action-packed happening across the board. I mean, even I wouldn't say, Joyce and Murray so much, but definitely like the whole Russian plot had action.
Yeah.
So looking at this episode in that sense, I love that it was so...
I hated it.
It was packed. It was well-rounded where it had all that. I
hated
know
it.
you hated it.
Oh, it was...
But without getting into it much, I liked the pacing because you got what makes this really cool is there's this story of this girl who just realized she's about to die in a day. How do you handle that news? What do you do in that situation? So she's going through her whole psychological journey of like paying respects and writing these letters and basically saying goodbye to the world. That's an amazing story.
It is amazing, but another thing you can do too is find a way to... You're on the verge of ending this Russian plot, and then they find a way to just like continue it for no reason at all.
Oh.
I was looking. I'm like, I'm watching it, right, and I'm like, it's coming to an end. It's coming to an end. It's coming to an end. It's coming to a. It's continuing. They just gonna continue this for no reason at all. Like,
I honestly don't remember where it goes.
Let's keep going. I remember. With it.
Yeah, I don't remember
that
where
part.
It goes.
That was my other thing. I'm like, here we go. No. And as it's happening, I'm like, no, this is so crazy.
Without giving things away, I mean, Yuri reminds me of Benny from The Mummy. He's just that dude who's like,
no,
he doesn't look like him. I'm just saying, like,
and you say mannerisms, but I don't see it.
I'm not saying mannerisms at all. I'm not saying any of that.
You shouldn't have said that he reminds you of Benny at all. You shouldn't have said that.
Okay. Well, it's just like he seems like a nice guy, but he's a jerk. That's all you see in this episode is that he's just like, maybe I do something for Yuri.
Yeah.
Like it's like, okay, he's a selfish jerk who pretends that he's your best friend and he's going to be there, but he's completely unloyal.
Of course,
and
he
you
does.
see that here, and I think that character, like, he was overly nice, and he's like, this might take a while. Like, everything that he did was like, he seems nice, too nice.
Do you know how long it takes to count $40,000 in 20s? About 5 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, but, he wanted to sniff each one and be excited about it.
And the stack would not be that big.
No.
Probably not.
It would be in a brown paper bag.
But that's 80s money. It's different. It's
different.
It looks bigger. Well, yeah, because inflation, it's changed. $40,000 looked a lot bigger back then too. It went further. It looked bigger. Yeah. Movie, show, whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, let's make $40,000.
No, honestly, I do like this episode. But I don't know. I like when things all come together, like when there's a culmination of everything. So this episode is not that. It's just you're getting a big exposition dump. You're getting not even. You're getting more of a backstory. You're getting more, but you're getting it from the horse's mouth, the horse that you never even heard about, like really. So I like that.
What backstory are we getting?
Well, we're understanding Victor Creel. So, I mean,
well, aside from that, what other
that's it. That's the big thing, because we're and it's a big deal. It's a very big deal. And because why else would they bring it in if it wasn't a big deal? That's the point. Is like we're understanding a little bit more of what's happening here. I do love this episode. It's not my favorite episode in television. I'll say that. It's not something that broke the mold, but as far as the show goes, it's a very good episode.
Yeah, it's not Ozymandias.
It's definitely not Ozymandias.
It's not Ozymandias. It's not Ozymandias at all.
No.
Okay. I love this episode for all of the reasons that Lee said. You basically took a lot of the words right out of my mouth. I love that all of these little groups have an explosive, traumatizing event that happens almost across the board. Like, everybody goes through it. Everybody feels something by the end of this episode. And I think it's a fantastic way to, like, tell the stories and, like, move the plot forward a little bit. Especially after, like, the dull that was season 3. And you get into here, and it's like by the 4th episode, it's like, oh my God, things are on, and things are the intensity is being turned up to 11. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
That's the big reason why I love this episode. A lot of the other reasons why I love this episode, I want to get into a lot more detail about to explain why. But I just the way that everything comes together, the way that everything builds in this episode, the way that all of these characters kind of go through it, it's like, you never got that before in the show. You never got the one episode where something happens to everybody, and you get an explanation to some burning questions, and you get a backstory about, a couple of other things. So it's filling in a lot of gaps along the way. And I absolutely love that. Especially for this show. Because up until this point, there's a lot of things that are kind of in the dark. And here we are with this one little story that kind of explains a lot about what's going on, whether you want to call it this alternate dimension or you want to call it the upside down and blah, blah, blah. You get this massive info dump in such a fantastic way. And it answers a lot of questions that people have had since the first season. But to Chuck's point, I could completely understand why, an episode like this will be built up too much and, like, it doesn't surpass your expectations or whatever, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. I don't think I entirely agree with you on the whole Max thing. I'm 100% on board with you when it comes to Hop and everything that he's going through. I can't believe that it did not come to an end here. Like, this was the perfect opportunity to bring everything with Hop to an end, and it's just like, nope, back we go. And
well, I mean, they can't end it here because of the Demogorgon.
Sure.
Like, they have to figure that out. So,
sure.
Obviously,
I guess so. They
could have still utilized that and have that Demogorgon, like, go after Hop because he escapes, versus,
or he uses it as a distraction so he can't escape.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
100 to 1 odds.
Sure, good for him. Yeah, there's not a whole lot more that I want to say. I'm keeping a lot of this short and sweet because I kind of want to just
we're
jump
still in
right.
spoiler free.
Yeah, I kind of want to just jump
when
right
we
into it.
Even when we get into spoiler territory, I don't want to jump into the cameo right away. I want to hold that off.
Save it. We'll save it.
We'll save it.
Yeah.
So do we want to get into?
Go for it. Go for it. I'm done.
So with that being said, for the rest of this conversation, video-wise, join us on Patreon at patreon.com/blackandwhitereviews. Help support the podcast, everything that we're doing. Also look out for new things coming down the line in Patreon, Patreon exclusives. We'll be making more announcements on that later on. On all of our socials, find us on YouTube and Instagram at Black and White Reviews 1866 and on Facebook at Black and White Reviews.
Yeah.
Other than that, the remainder of this conversation will always continue to be free on all podcast platforms. And with that being said, here we go into spoiler territory. So, Will, what would be the first thing that you would want to talk about in this episode aside from
It's fine.
said cameo?
So let's talk about Will and get him out of the way.